Hi, 7th graders. We're on lesson 5-7, which is on page 279 in your textbook. Our learning target is solving problems using the percent equation. So previously in lesson 5-3, we solved percent equations using the percent proportion. So now there's a different way that we can solve the same types of problems. So the problems that we're going to go through in our video are ones that you've already seen before, and you will always be able to set up a percent proportion, but I'm going to teach you how to do it with the percent equation. So this is the equation, which is part equals percent times whole. So you probably want to write that down. And when we include the percent in our equation, we always write it as a decimal. So we need to be really, really good at converting the percent into a decimal. So let's look at example 1, and we'll work with our percent equation. So what number is 35% of 88? So if you remember back, our is always or usually the part, and then we have the percent, and then we have our whole, and the whole is the number that we're taking the percent of. So we're taking 35% of 88. So I am going to set this up then as x, because we don't know our part. That's what we're trying to figure out, equals, and then we write our percent, but we write it as a decimal. So remember that with a percent, we take, if there's no decimal, we start after the ones place, and then we go over 2. So our decimal then is going to be, let me get back to here. We can write it as 0.35 or 0.35. And then we are going to multiply. So we'll do a multiplication, my little dot there. 0.35, and then we're going to multiply it by 88. So for this one, then, we can just do 0.35 times 88. 0.35 times 88 equals 30.8. So we know that 35% of 88 equals 30.8. Okay, example 2. 62 is what percent of 186? So 62 is our part. We don't know what our percent is, but we're taking whatever that percent is of 186. So we have 62 equals x, because that's our percent. And then we have times, I want to make this a little bit thicker, there, times 186. Okay, so then if we think way back to solving equations, we know that we can do our railroad tracks, or we know that 186 times x, we would need to divide both sides by 186. And so to get rid of that, so we'll just do that right here really quick. Oops, I forgot my line was really thick. So on both sides, I'm just gonna put in a 186 here. Divide by 186, so that cancels out that side. So then we're left with x equals 62 over 186. So I'm just going to put that into my calculator. 62 divided by 186 equals 0.3333. So I'll write it as 0.333. But since we're finding the percent, and if we are given a percent, remember we write it as a decimal, so we have to do the opposite. We're given the decimal, so now we need to write it as a percent. So we take the decimal and we go over 2, so then I'm left with 33.3% would actually be our answer. So 33.3% of 186 is 62. Okay, 210 is 75% of what number? So 210 is our part. our 75% is obviously our percent of what number? So we have 210 equals, we change 75% to a decimal, so 0.75, and then times x. And here's my multiplication that we're going to do. And then we do the same exact thing. This time we're going to divide both sides by 0.75, and then we're left with, so if I do 210 divided by 0.75, I get 280. So 280 equals x. So that means that 75% of 280 equals 210. And we can actually check that by going 0.75 times 280, and we get 210. Okay, one more example, and then I'm going to have you do a few problems on your own. Zach bought a television that cost $350. Since he lives in Rhode Island, a 7% sales tax was added. What was the total cost of the television? So we have $350, and we need to figure out what the sales tax is. Or we need to figure out how much it's going to cost after the tax. So basically what we need to do is find 7% of $350. So that x is our part, because we're trying to figure out 7% of 350. So 7% would be written as 0.07 as a decimal, and then we take that times 350. So if I go 350 times 0.07, I get 24.5. So that tells us that there's that much tax on it. So then I'll write it as x equals 24.5. I'm going to write that as money so we remember. So 24.5 is the same as $24.50 in money. So if there's $24.50 tax, then what we have to do is we have to add that to 350, because tax is a percent of the item and then it's added on. So then we go 350 plus 24.5, and we have 374.50. So I will write that right there. X equals 374.50. So the cost of the television was actually $374.50. So I would like you to pause the video and find the answers for 1, 2, and 3. Do that really quick and then come back and check your answer. So 15% of 275, we would go x equals 0.15 times 275. And then you should have gotten, x equals 41.3. Okay, for number 2, what percent of 750 is 6? So I wrote that one a little bit weird, and that might have confused you a little bit. But is 6. So 6 is going to be our part. Percent we don't know, and then we're multiplying it by 750. So 6 equals x times 750, and then our answer would be x equals 0.8% is what you should have gotten. And then for the last one, 54 is 18% of what number? So it would be 54 equals 0.18 times x. And here's my multiplication sign. And then x is going to equal 300, because we would go 54 divided by 0.18 to get 300. Okay, that is all I have for you on the video. You can go back and re-look at Lesson 5-7 if you would like to. Make sure you go on to NICU and take the Lesson 5-7 quiz, as well as filling in your vocab words as you are going through the Chapter 5 videos. Have a super evening.